Still Wind and Rain. What do they want for their last two cores here? I mean, we still don't know where the gyrocopter's going, but we can almost definitely assume it'll be either the mid or the safe lane. Very unlikely for the gyro to be in the off lane, so maybe for Wind and Rain you just go for an off lane pickup here. Keep the flexibility going with the gyrocopter. Keep the side of Pecado Squad Gaming thinking about what's going on with this draft. I wonder though, what else would you like to see for Sword? Like he had the Centaur last game. Wouldn't you just love to see an Axe pop out, John? Axe is always fun to watch.
Oh, you love the Axe. I still am not completely sold on its performance in the DPC at least. Like it's felt, at least in the games you've casted, it just feels on and off. I think right now you're still better off with much more early timings where you're not relying on Blink plus Vanguard or the Manta build up. It's very tight. Like you have to play really on point with the Axe in terms of what you have to meet. They go with a Mars, so you've got the Mars Snap combo, Arena Kisses, very, very basic, but very, very effective for Wind and Rain to play with. Of course, you are giving PSG some good options to spell steal here with the Rubik. Mars spells are all good for the Rubik, especially that Arena, but the Spear is really nice as well. And, of course, all the spells in Snapfire, even Gyrocopter spells are really nice, so PSG has a lot of ways to kind of counterplay that, but I think when it comes down to it, like this basic combo from Wind and Rain is just going to set up so much for them. And you do see PSG go into the Lifestealer, which was left in the pool. So they've got a natural way to avoid the Snap Kisses, to avoid the Arena under safe lane core. And you've got Lifestealer Centaur. That is a ridiculously tanky duo. You don't have something like a Timbersaw here to rip through those strength heroes. Once you infest the Centaur with a Blink, he's going to have a lot of HP. At some point, he could probably reach 5k with a couple of items on that Centaur. So it's going to be really tanky in the front. Lifestealer pops out. They can get off their team fight that way. So we'll see if PSG does kind of play to that tempo. And for Wind and Rain, they're going to have to watch how far they commit with the Arena Kisses. If you catch a Lifestealer quick enough, it can still line up. But you have to really be very fast on that control. You don't have an instantaneous piece of control like a Hex, unless your mid lane or someone itemizes for a side of Vice. So it's going to be a bit harder to target the Lifestealer. You might want to just focus on the other heroes here.
Yeah, certainly so. We'll wait out this last ban from Wind and Rain and we can finish off these drafts. I'm still very curious as to where this gyro is going. It does seem like Pecado Squad have assumed that it will be a mid gyro again, and that they are just waiting for another safe lane pickup here for Wind and Rain, but I think it is still very open for the side of Wind and Rain in terms of this draft. 23 seconds of reserve time left and they get rid of the Storm. Fair enough. I suppose that would have been another kind of infest combo with the Lifestealer, and well, they didn't really have much in the way of catching out the Storm this game, so you don't want to really allow the Storm to have a completely free game. Pecado Squad, they will have to go for another mid. Still plenty of options though. I suppose you just want someone to tempo control, right? Like you talked about it when this draft first started, but it felt like they just never took off on PSG last game, and maybe something a bit earlier than the Tiny. Someone who doesn't need a Blink Dagger to be effective.
Yeah, you've got option for Ember. Ember could still be a really good infest target for the Lifestealer. You don't have that direct control from Wind and Rain. All their stunts are on a bit of a delay. And Ember mid has been pretty darn good recently. Phase Boots, Orb of Corrosion, or the Maelstrom build-up's all really nice. Regardless, they go with the Invoker instead.
Wow.
So it still holds steady mid. You can maybe play around with early Sunstrikes, going for the Quas Wex. Mid lane matchup shouldn't be too rough for the Invoker. He did get slightly touch on 7.29C, changes to his attack speed, but that was more of a general adjustment, considering the rest of his kit was sort of adjusted already beforehand. Should still be fine mid. I think I'm just curious about what Wind and Rain want to do about this. We don't tend to see too many early rotations from supports into the mid lane, and for the Invoker, it's one of those awkward things where you really want to have a bottle on your mid just because of water and bounty rune changes. At the same time, Invoker's not necessarily the best bottle carrier. You normally want to rush one big item first. Either you go for the Urn, or you go for your Midas if you want to play greedy. And Wind and Rain go with a Slardar, so it looks like we're going to be seeing Mars mid. No, safe lane Mars.
Wow,
Safe
safe
lane
lane Mars. When's the last time we casted a safe lane Mars, John? It feels like it's been forever. If ever, I actually can't remember.
Yeah, that's been a really long time.
Feels like it was
I
just when
can't
the
say
hero
fault-
first came out that we casted it.
Yeah, all the way back then when it got back in CM. Can't fault Wind and Rain for going for this. Like, you get Cassius again on the Jaro mid. Up against Invoker, you're going to be able to hold that lane out. Of course, this time around, QQQ is not going to be very easy to run down as a Gyrocopter. The Gyrocopter, you can still try to play with your Rocket Barrage, but the Invoker is going to be playing from range. It's going to have a Ghost Form out if he needs to run. At least probably down the line, maybe by level 4, level 5, he's going to be a bit safer. And he can regen through a lot better. So Cassius, he's not going to be able to completely zone out Q. Wind and Rain, having the Slaughter is really good against a Lifestealer, right? You have this control that can go through the Rage as long as you get your Bash of the Deeps up. So it's a good option to lock in Ego, and it's a great way to get this really fast, aggressive tempo off. Wind and Rain can't afford to fall behind, though. Like, you might be able to build up in Cassius, but you have Slardar and Amar safe. And they need to win out early, otherwise the scaling towards late game is not going to feel as great, especially compared to that Lifesteal.
Let's see how this one pans out, John. Game number 2 between PSG and Wind and Rain set to begin. I suppose I never really truly asked you the difficult question, Jonathan, but who has the better draft, in your opinion?
Better draft. It's a bit tough to call this one. I think PSG has an easier win condition. This time around, they just don't need to get run down early, and you have a lot of value in this Lifestealer. Like, you've got a Mars you can rip through, you've got a Slaughter you can kind of rip through, but you don't necessarily want to man-fight the Slaughter, simply because of his Bash of Deep's just going to ruin you down the line, so it's never fun in that sense, but late game scaling is a bit smoother for PSG, but you still have to deal with a Gyrocopter anyway, so it feels like it kind of plateaus in the mid game for Wind and Rain just a bit. Towards the late game, it climbs a bit higher for PSG's, and they have a better mid game spike just because of how strong a Lifestealer is at that point, and then the late game scaling of Gyro versus Lifestealer feels a bit back and forth there.
Why? Going for a very early enchant to sensibility. They didn't skill up the Rocket Barrage, so Cassius didn't really have that to try and use on sensibility, and I suppose it wouldn't have really led to a kill anyway. PSG just going to set up again for the bot bounty runes, and the side of Wind and Rain, of course, just going to go towards the top side. No contest. Very even start once again. They are throwing Sword in that offlane at that top side of the map, and Ego, I thought he might switch up lanes and go bot instead. It is a bit of a rough matchup for the Lifestealer up against that Slaughter, but it does seem like Ego wants to try it out.
Yeah, I don't think it's too bad early on. It's only really by level 3 where you start to get worried, so we'll have to see if you can hold out, try to just get the safe last hits, and there's a lot of pressure here on sensibility to get that zoning off. You do have the Frost Shield to prevent a complete rundown. The additional armor is going to really help out Ego in sustaining the lane, but look at that aggression.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? You're going to have... Yeah, well, that's a problem. You missed the Frost Shield. They got the range creep at least, I guess, but... And it was denied, so that's a positive, but... You've got the minus armor with the Blightstone and the little Shredder on top of the Bash of the Deeps that's going to be up on Sword, and that's what I get really worried about for at least the side of Pecado squad. We'll have a look at the other lanes, though, before that gets underway, because bot lane, you've got Duffy and WDR up against Y, and of course you've also got Cassius C there, but this time around, he is playing the safe lane Gyro. So they're throwing the Mars mid instead. And speaking of that safe lane Gyro, WDR is currently being chased by him. Why? We'll be able to secure first blood.
You've just achieved first blood.
Yeah,
Very
this,
nice.
this lane is really aggressive coming out from Wind and Rain. Like, Gyrocopter plus Enchantress, they've got insane range to play with. You're up against really a melee core and a range support that can't do much about being run down. So they can play this aggressive lane early on. It's what you'd like to see with a Gyro. Get an early tip out from Cassius C as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was sensibility tipping, and I'm not sure if he was misclicking like he misclicked the Frost Shield, John. Not sure why you're tipping the Gyrocopter. Fair enough. So, bot lane looking already pretty darn good for Wind and Rain. Mid lane, you've got Madara there up against Q. Now, it's a bit of a lane swap, but the Mars does have the advantage in this lane up against the Invoker. it is very challenging to try and CS into the Mars. Especially as Invoker, he's gone Quas Wex, he doesn't have the highest of base damage. I think Madara should be able to just take over.
Yep, you can just lane quite nicely. You hit your level 3s, you've got Bulwark up. You're not going to take as much damage from the Invoker if he does decide to right-click you down. And you're also seeing the difference in itemization. Q, again, is trying to opt for the double null, as we tend to see on Invokers, and Madara already has the bottle, so he's going to have more regen on hand. You're going to have to juggle through your quas here to get your HP back up, whereas for Madara, he's going to have the mana to sustain his spell spam, so you will have to watch yourself there on PSG send. As Madara, once he hits 6, he's going to look for that arena opportunity.
That he will. While you were speaking about that, John, bot lane, there was almost another kill out onto our Rubik. Very close call for WDR, but one of the big problems for him right now is he has no regen. So he's kind of just stuck in the lane, but he can't really do much. It's a very awkward scenario here for our Rubik, and I don't see a courier flying out either. So no regen on the way for our Rubik either, and that kind of just means you're there. He's going to go pull the lane, but it's only 2 small creeps anyway. And while that was happening, Ego does end up dropping top lane. And it's around that level 3 mark on Sword you talked about, John. It was going to get very scary for Ego. And there you go, they've already got 1.
It's just painful. Like, the minus armor you pointed out, the damage from Bash for Deep is physical. So you're just completely amped up once the little shredder flies out. The chain stunts are there with a cookie. And you might have frost armor to play with. That's a good amount of damage reduction, but it just doesn't feel like it's enough. You have to remember, it's a lifestealer now. You tend to play more passive because you've got Feast and Ghoul Frenzy. Two passive spells in lane. Like, you're really just focusing on creeps, and it's really boring. I've played Lifestealer a couple times. It's actually super boring compared to... Before with Open Wounds, it felt like it was more fun. Now it's just... It's like the new Wraith King. Even Wraith King has more active spells than Lifestealer, actually, right now.
Sad reality for the Lifestealer. Just like this lane. There you go. Gonna get it the range creep denied there by Sabo, and now Sabo's gonna look to move in. Ego doesn't have a point in that rage either, so you've got the cookie into stun setup, and I think that's a bit of an error from Ego. I realize you want to play a bit greedier and not have that magic immunity this early on, but it does feel like you need it. At least at level 4, he should pick up at least 1 level of it. But that cookie into stun, it's very detrimental for that Lifestealer.
Yeah, it's just a tough one. Like, the moment the combination goes off, you're kind of stuck. I think he's pocketing the rage because he knows the bash is just going to ruin his rage anyway.
Sword gets the stun off. Follow-up stun is there. Ego with the Frost Shield, though, getting a lot of damage reduced. He's going to be able to harass out Sword a bit, as now we'll turn onto Sabo. Sabo, he'll go for the TP. Sensibility does not have the gaze yet, so won't be able to cancel that off. I suppose that is a rather good point, John, that you did just make, as Sword does get chased, but perhaps he doesn't want the rage because of the Bash of the Deeps, but I still feel like the cookie into the crush is pretty harmful for the Lifestealer, but Ego does skip it again, so I suppose without the Snapfire around, he's not too afraid for his life. But Sabo's moving in now, and the danger is back.
Yep, and you've got the Salve as well to top up Sword. He's going to be back to full HP. They could look for that aggressive posturing. Oh.
Standing up against WDR, he is going to end up dying, but he should be able to still secure a kill here with the Enchanted Creep, and he does. So 1-for-1 trade in the end. Definitely a little bit more worthwhile for WDR this time, as now mid lane, Madara is dropping quite low. Q trying to get that harassment out, does get a tornado as well. Now he's just trying to find an Enchanted Creep that apparently is not being microed. He will get an easy 50 gold.
Yeah, that's a nice injection for Q, but HQ does get topped up here.
Very good as they go in with that arena now. Q still going to be alive. Deafening Blast out onto the Enchantress. That's going to save his life. WDR also around to make sure they can't keep the chase up. Nice little rotation there from the Rubik, but the Invoker will have to heal up the old-fashioned way. Leveling up that Quas as Madara just going to keep walking in, trying to keep him very unhealthy on the Invoker. So Q not going to be too afraid, though. He'll stick around.
Yep, it's perfectly fine. The issue here is you have WDR soaking your mid lane as well to protect you, and that does free up a lot of farm down. But we're seeing Cassius really pull away in terms of CS. In fact, all the cores of Winrin are finding that initial farm. You're not getting great presence here from PSG. I worry about the center here. Duffy's at level 4, about to hit 5, but Cassius is already 6, about to hit 7. So you've got a big level lead on the Gyrocopter. That means he has a lot of magic damage output if he wants to play here.
Oh, poor WDR. He just won't be left alone by Y. Continues to be chased down. It's now top lane. They're looking for a bit of a dive. They'll get a courier. Better than nothing. You can kind of see the fear here from Pecado squad. Just not confident whatsoever. And now Q in the Roshan pit, trying to abuse the fog, but Madara going to chase him down. He does have the spear, but he might just wait for the arena instead. And just oh, no, he doesn't.
Ooh.
Now he's got no mana for the arena. They might still have the damage, though, and they do. Sabo even coming into the last second to get that Medallion of Courage out. That may have made all the differences. Now Ego top lane going to be chased down. Sword, try and go after Lich and Seth. Sensibility is going to die. They won't quite get Ego. They do at least get a Lich for their trouble.
That's a nice little pick off there. We also saw WDR snipe out Y with a nice invis-screen. So they get some punishment off from PSG's end, but you have a massive lead on Winrin. 4K up at 8-9 minutes in. A bit tough for PSG. I'm really curious about Ego's build. He went for Rage, Feast, and Ghoul Frenzy. So a 1-2-3 build with no Infest, which feels a bit dicey. Like, you've got the Rage now, but I think at this point you'd want Infest instead to save yourself or look for the aggressive potential. He's going to hit level 7 soon anyway, but you are going to miss out on that little spike for maybe a minute and a half here.
Might be punished now. They're going to start moving in. Ego needs to back off. This is very dangerous. They won't have a cookie target yet, but Sabo is slowly but surely moving in. One of the real strengths of the Enchantress is you can just kind of fight at any time during the early game. As long as you have that enchant available, and Ego is going to be forced into the east side of that dire jungle, and he's kind of just going to be stuck there. There's not really much of a way he can lane anymore. Obviously, he would have preferred to have the armlet up before he went to the jungle, but bot lane, Duffy does end up dying to the Centaur now, and they want to go for more. The call down is out. WDR dropping quite low, but not quite low enough. They're going to be all right. While that's happening, top tier 1, it's dropping quite fast. It's going to be taken out pretty much for free. Pecado squad, they just don't seem to have the necessary means to try and defend these towers yet.
Yeah, it's a bit rough seeing that early momentum go the way of Winrin for PSG. PSG, again, they needed to just prevent themselves from being run down in lane from this early aggression from Winrin. Now they're going to have to play catch-up somehow. They need Ego to build up his farm. He's still trying to work towards that armlet, which is going to be big, but it just doesn't feel like he's going to get enough, although they are making a move on Sword.
They're going to try, but can you really catch him? Stampede is there to help out. Crush is there. Lich ulti even thrown out. Sword, he'll go for a TP play. WDR, though, is going to show up. Let's get the lift off to make sure they cancel that TP, but that was a bit of a close call there for Pecado squad. Luckily, they still make it work.
Yeah, it's a nice kill to get. It's really much needed as well.
Yeah, Duffy's going to be in big trouble now. Homing missile coming in. Rocket Barrage going to be shared with the creep wave, but look at the damage output. He went for that early Falcon Blade build-up on the Gyro, and well, for now, it does appear to be paying off.
Yeah, it just sustains your aggression on the Gyro quite nicely. Gives you good amount of mana regen, good damage, nice HP. With the infused raindrops, Cassius is not going to run out of mana for a lot of times, and he's just allowed to farm up towards his Ags. They're going to have that big spike in the Gyrocopter with the Ags up. Physical damage output's going to be great. Then you just pick up something like a Satanic down the line. It's going to be next to impossible to kill. I'm curious what Duffy goes for. He's just riding with a Ring of Health right now on the Centaur. There's an argument to be made for the Vanguard and for the Hood of Defiance here. It just feels like you need both, which means that the Centaur is not going to be very tanky up front until you have both of those defensive items up. It does look like he is opting for the HOD right now. So he's going to be safer from the magic damage from the Gyro, but then you have to worry about physical damage with a Slaughter and Gyro anyway.
Well, even worse, John, because he's not tanky enough, he can't defend this tier 1 mid tower. Usually you'd want your off lane to just be in front of this mid tier 1, just defending it. But you can see now Wind and Rain have moved in. They'll glyph up the siege creep, so they are committed. Stampede going to be popped. Who are they going after? Sensibility, he's going to drop to Y. It was a defensive Stampede. PSG now, they've got to run because the call down is there, and now PSG, they are trapped up in the arena. They have nowhere to go but into the grave. That is a perfect initiation from Madara on the Mars. Very unfortunate stuff for Pecado's squad, but this might be a repeat of game 1, John. It is not looking good.
Oh, it's looking very good for Wind and Rain at the very least, as they are 6k up at 13 minutes in. And it's just that team fight combo. Arena gets dropped, call downs on top of it, kisses fly through. You don't have the cancel in the back line to stop it. And it's just really easy to clean up. You're still facing farming issues on all of your cores here on PSG, huh?
They are very desperate. They've thrown out the Chain Frost onto Y. They're going to try and chase him down. They get the enchant off now. Q's shown up on the Invoker. He is still alive though. Still trying to run. Does eventually die. But you commit Chain Frost. You TP up Q. It's 4 heroes for an Enchantress. If that doesn't tell you how desperate PSG feel right now, I don't know what will.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. Like, you'll take what you can get, but now you're down Chain Frost. It's not the longest spell, and I guess that helps you control your top jungle. They did smoke up afterwards, but looks like they're just gonna have to settle with mostly farming with that. Like, WDR is still smoked up, but you don't have the team lined up, and you've got the blink up in Sword, so he's gonna look for some plays here.
Sensibility now being caught out, and well, unlike PSG, they won't need 4 heroes for this one. Sensibility gonna try and back off, but there's your Bash to the Deeps just deleting the Lich. Q, he was trying to help out with the Tornado, but it did not land, and now the chase is on. They want to go for more. Madara around with the Yule Scepter up, and a massive cookie there from Sabo. Doesn't quite catch the Invoker. WDR is going to be fine to get out.
They're diving.
They are diving, John. They've got that Yule Scepter up. Madara, he really wants a target. WDR still going to run, but Sword will get the stun off, and Madara will secure the kill with the speed.
Yeah, it's not the biggest kill to find, but they force so much movement out from PSG that it always feels awkward. Like, none of their cores are farming except the Lifestealer. Ego's just taking that bot lane solo, trying to build up, going for the Desolator next, so trying to build some damage for his team, and that's going to be really helpful once it's up. He's got the Armlet running as well. We just need to see them be able to pull off the combination with a center. There's so much pressure here for Duffy to hit this blink timing. He has to just play really conservatively until he has the blink dagger up, because the center, if he doesn't find a blink here, your initiation's just not there.
What do you do though if you're PSG? Like, with this draft, you can't really afford to fall too far behind. It's not like Lifestealer's that be-all, end-all kind of carry right now. It's considered one of the weaker carries in the meta. Ego's trying to catch up desperately. Maybe once that Deso's up, he can get involved with his team, but SCSC gonna have the Aghanim Scepter very soon. You're still losing so many objectives on the side of PSG, and now they're onto the top tier 2 tower. They've got another siege creep, they've got the enchanted creep there from Y. Don't forget these enchanted creeps, they do hit very hard. It was plus 70 damage on the Dark Troll Summoner. So you can see, it's not going to take them very long.
Yeah, pulling out the top lane, they can take that outpost now, take away some XP per minute from the side of Pecado. And for Pecado, that's just more bleed out here that they'd have to contend with. Again, as you mentioned, at least Ego is finding some farm, but Lifestealer just doesn't scale too well. Now the Rosh is going to be opened up here for Wind and Rain, and Pecado, they don't have wards in the area. So this is going to be blind for them if they want. They're going to need to scout out for the Sunstrike from their Invoker, but it looks like they're not even aware. And with all the minus armor on hand, it's not going to take long, especially with a DD as well from Cassius E.
And an Alpha Wolf, John. Just keep adding on that damage. And if you remember a few years back, John, that was the thing to do, is always have an Alpha Wolf behind your Gyrocopter, because all the flat cannon damage was boosted up by it. Q, gonna be very careful in that mid lane. He'll throw a casual Tornado out. Meanwhile, to the north, they bounce Sensibility. Stampede, not going to be enough. They'll get the enchant off. Another Chain Frost, but Cassius C, he'll give them the tip over. The Chain Frost not going to amount to anything but a bit of CS. Into the mid-tier 2 tower they go. In fact, never mind that. They want heroes. They found WDR. Madara going to try and cut him off. He has the Ul Scepter up. No arena necessary. Just going to spear him. Sort of have himself a nice shish kebab.
Yeah, really nice set of kills. Again, Ego is trying to make the best of this space by just sticking to bot, not showing up, not caring what happens to his team right now, which is the right play. They will lose their mid-tier 2 with no defense, though. No Stampede to help them get in position for another 40. Duffy is very close to that blink, just about 200 gold. You're going to have at least one very protected lane on bot, but with the Aegis up here and the Ags up on Cassius C, they could look for the high ground. Wind and Rain kind of matching that timing from game 1.
Absolutely. A very strong showing here from Wind and Rain so far. Bit of a decent spike here for Duffy now. He does at least have the blink up, so he can initiate for the team, and maybe they could catch them by surprise as they're going to try and go on to Y again. He has the Glimmer Cape, and they do not have detection. And here comes the arena, Madara. He finds the perfect arena once again. They're just diving them. Madara's underneath the T4s now. He's sending a message, John. He's letting him know. These T4s, they're not doing enough damage to me. Your hero's nowhere near the T4s yet.
I love what Madara is doing. He's being so efficient for that regen. It's copying damage as he's just regening back for that rune. Lovely. They're going to be able to find that mid tier 3, maybe find a Rax. I think if they wanted to force tier 4s, you're in a really awkward spot for PSG because, well, they do have the infest on Duffy with a blink, so they can make something happen.
Duffy, big stun out. There's your blink reveal now. They go onto Sword, but the Glimmer Cape again going to save the day. Where's the detection? There it is. They do get it out. Onto Madara now, but he's killed off Q on the Invoker, and they can't quite get past Cassius C. He still has the Aegis up on the Gyrocopter, so you have to be very cautious as so they are going to back off.
Yeah, they play it safe. I think you just wait for your Slaughter to be back up. Cassius E is very close to finishing up the Satanic, or at least getting one from the major parts for it, so Jar's going to be tank here in the front lines here. You could wait out for the BKBs to fly out on Wind and Rain. Like, you're close to it on the Slaughter, just lacking the recipe. Same thing for the Mars. You're lacking 2 parts, but it shouldn't take too long to find that farm. You still want to make use of that Aegis. Maybe you could just look at the bot lane, take out the tier 1, take out the tier 2 next, really choke out the entire map from the side of Pecado. For Pecado's end, they need to keep playing with the Infest along with his center Blinken. That is their best bet in getting the setup for their Invoker to line up his spells, line up the Tornado combos and the EMP, and kind of get the damage off. So there's so much pressure on Ego and on Duffy to set some openings up for the team. We'll have to see them really play well, especially during that high ground. But man, the bot lane's just going to be taken here. There's some time to get some V-wards off from the side of Pecado to take control back in top jungle, but they are going to lose these last outer towers.
This looks so surgical from Wind and Rain, and I mean, if you were a betting man today, John, Wind and Rain, I don't know what the odds were, but considering the standings, I'm sure they would have been pretty favored for Pecado Squad Gaming. And Rain showing that maybe the odds can't quite be trusted as the outer tower's gone now. Wind and Rain, they're going to start moving up again. They still have that Aegis. They're just over halfway to a Satanic on Cassius C. They'll protect the C Trip again, by the way. There's your glyph out. Instead, though, they'll go back into the mid lane. Trying to secure the lane without a tier 3 tower. Cassius C just kind of frontlining for the team. It's not going to be too difficult to imagine it going down. Slowly but surely they'll get it done. Now yeah, Aegis is gone though, so you've got to be a bit more cautious. They get the range tracks. Are they going to stick around for the melee? It looks like they're going to try. Y will try to get it done himself. I love the fact that there's just a tornado going on. Q's just gonna get connected by it. There's your Tornado EMP now, but Madara, he was waiting for that right moment to jump in and try to take down that Invoker. Mortimer's kisses are out. Q is gone. Why? He will drop, but does it matter? They've lost Stuffy as well. Madara, he might go down eventually, but no, they cookie him out. He's gonna survive. They thought he was already dead. The Chain Frost at least getting some jobs done. Sword will drop. They bought back on Cube, but now Madara moving back in with the rage. Nice and quick from Ego. Madara gonna drop to the Fade Bolt. Sabo, TP, not quite gonna be there in time. The Tornado, he's gonna cancel that off, and well, now Pecado squad, they've managed to at least get a pretty nice team fight to go their way. They only lose the range racks as well, so it's not too big of a deal here for the Dire.
Yep, they managed to make it work out quite nicely. You really need those BKBs to be up on win rate to really feel safe in that high ground. Again, you're only a recipe away here for your Mars. You also want to wait for that Satanic and Cassius. Once you have that, you stand in front, you get stunned, boo-hoo. Still life-stealing with a Satanic. Not going to mind too much. So, yeah, you still took the range racks, which is great. You can maybe wait out for the next Roche. It's a minute and a half until we see the respawn. And PSG, the best they can do now is just try to get more farm. They've got some room to play in their jungle. They're controlling the triangle. They're very close to the full AC from Ego. And that's going to be a really tanky life stealer up front. With the Desolator up, he can rip through your heroes. You don't have that much armor right now on Wind and Rain. You haven't itemized for armor just yet, although Madara is queuing up the AC next to counteract that. But it's going to be a while. So there's going to be a massive spike for the Lifestealer's damage output. You're going to have to respect it, as it's at that point where the Lifestealer can do some work. And the combination with Duffy on the Centaur is just lining up. With that blink, they can easily jump onto key targets and start ripping through. You do have the Ags up on Sword, though. So he's going to have that bonus regen from the Crush when he gets a puddle off. Of course, he's going to be speedier as well in that river. So it kind of gives you more durability, although not in the same way the BKB would. But the AC is up and running there for Ego. So again, minus armor on hand, with the Deso up, with the amplification going off for your Feast and Ghoul Frenzy, it's going to feel really good for the Lifestealer to rip through these high HP heroes. And when Ran, you do need some defensive items up. Just wait for the BKB to be up on at least Madara, and it is up. You already have the Satanic for Cassius E. Going into the Daedalus, so damage output's not going to be an issue for the Gyro once that's up. They just, they're still winning out the farm game. Like, even if PSG's catching up, Wind and Rain are also finding these big items.
Ego does get that bottom tier 2 tower. Now it looks like Wind and Rain, they might start setting up for the high ground again. They might give it another crack with that Satanic on Cassius C. No Aegis up though. May make them feel a little bit too afraid to fully commit. Now bottom lane, Ego. He's just taking out the tier 3 tower. Just by himself, the Sword is around with the Crush out. Ego, he does have the Infest, so he should be just fine. But Sword's going to chase him down. Meanwhile, top side looks like Y has been caught out, or has he? He is buying a lot of time while Ego has been left alone. They get the arena off into the spear now. They lock down the Life Stealer. They will take him out. No buyback available. Meanwhile, Y, he is still alive, John. He's just an Enchantress. What? He's going to get out of there. How's he done that?
I have no clue. Like,
did they have detection?
Yeah, they had Dust. He just had a really good juke spot there in the tree line, but how did they not have enough magical burst to go through? Like, he used the active very late there on Y, so he shouldn't have had that max spell resistance. Now, mid.
Oh, Dodge Rebuke, not quite on the mark. Spear away for sensibility, but he is still going to drop. Meanwhile, now Madara would love to try and catch out Q. Cookie, not quite going to be in range. Duffy, meanwhile, jumps in with the hoot stop, and now you call downtown. Madara, he's got arena up very soon, and a big crush available there from Sword. We'll just wipe them. Wind and Rain just blowing right through the side of Pecado Squad Gaming. That should be at least 2 Raxes to drop. Maybe even Megas, John. They don't quite have the highest of damage right now on Wind and Rain, but I'd say 2 Raxes should be very possible. The Cassius C's already got the top one about down. PSG, they might have one more opportunity to try and defend. They are eventually going to back off from Wind and Rain, but Roshan just spawned.
They
No.
called it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, that's a bit underwhelming. Wind and Rain, though, performing very well in the series, finally finding a series win. Pecado squad, both sides playing with a stand-in. Looks like one team just played a lot better with theirs, whereas for Pecado, doesn't really line up, and it's all back to what they're doing with his gyrocopter. In both games, they pick up the gyrocopter. Game 1, they run it mid. Game 2, they run it safe. And it was a perfect game for Cass. You see, they hit these timings. They play really aggressively. Whereas for Pecado, they go a bit slower in the lanes. I think that's the massive issue there. Like, the mid heroes for Q as well don't feel too lined up. We never saw any of these Spirit Brothers sliding through, despite the last bans kind of leaving them there. So we're going to have to see down the line if Pecado starts to adjust how they play down mid with Q, adjust their tempo in the games, as it was a bit flat, but not to take away from Wind and Rain. They just play really clean. That's the best we've seen from them so far. And that is with a stand-in. So props to them for kind of gelling together really well while playing a man short.
Certainly so. I mean, they've looked amazing this series. That was their first victory in terms of series throughout the whole lower division for Season 2. Sure, it's going to feel quite nice now because they aren't really bottom of the leaderboard anymore. Of course, Feld is sitting there currently with no wins, so Wind and Rain can start moving their way up and try to avoid being relegated out of the lower division, which never feels really nice. Of course, we are going to have a winners interview coming up with somebody from Wind and Rain, but we're going to have to wait and see who it is. We happen to know yet, John?
Not yet. No,
Oh, we do. Sabo's around.
Word. Oh, okay. Sweet.
Hello, Mr. Sabo. Can you hear us, sir?
Yeah, what's up?
How you doing, Sabo? Very good to see you again, sir. Congratulations on your victory. How you feeling after that victory?
Wait, is this live?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Feeling good. You know, people. Yeah, it just feels good. I guess. I mean, it's whatever, right? It's one win. I can't feel too good, but it's definitely better than losing. So.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
I want to ask you straight off the bat. Obviously, you pointed out it was a bit of a struggle in the earlier half of the lower division, but obviously now you guys look very strong in this series. What do you think the main change-up was that allowed you guys to look so much more dominant today?
I mean, it's definitely, I'd say, the change we made, like our stand-in. Like 4 was the position that I used to play, obviously, like on the former A team, and pretty much all the times I've ever played competitive was 4. And when I switched to mid, I just felt like the shot calling and things that were happening on the map and the way we were playing was like just bad. So when I got back to 4, I'm able to like see these things more clear and have like a better idea of like what everybody should be doing or how things should be going. So I feel that I can control my teammates better and give them a better game plan from 4. So
Because you just didn't feel like you could really captain the team while you were in that mid lane role, but rather than the pos 4, you can actually just sit there and kind of communicate properly and lead the team.
yeah, and it was maybe naive of me to think that I could, because I remember when I decided that I wanted to play mid, it was because I felt like the mid laners that I previously had weren't making shot calls enough. Because I think everyone in Dota has a responsibility to shot call like individually, because every role sees something that the other roles can't see. But then when I went to mid, I'm like, oh shit, this is actually, it's actually kind of difficult. It's a lot easier to do it when I'm playing 4. So yeah, I mean, definitely feels easier on 4. I guess it might just be experience too.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. I've got a question here. You guys are playing with a fairly, let's say, international stack. How does that kind of work out for you guys? Like now with Madara standing in, is it gelling well? Have you guys played a lot with him to get that cohesiveness together beforehand?
No, it's just straight chaos. Like you have like one guy speaking Russian, I'm speaking English, Madara's all Spanish, Sword's translating Spanish. It's actually chaos. Like it doesn't surprise me that we've only won one series. Like I would say we're trash. Like we're just chaotic trash.
No, I wouldn't say that. So I think it'd be a bit too harsh. So you won both games in what, 25 minutes? The last one was 27 minutes. It's quite impressive if you guys can't actually understand each other. Kind of impressive how well you guys were moving as a cohesive unit. Very
Yeah, I
impressive.
mean like like I say things and then there's like no response. I just hope that they understand. And like that's kind of how it works. Like and then like I know a little bit of Spanish, so I'll like sometimes I'll catch sword translating to Madara like what I said, or like yeah, it's just chaos. But I guess it works a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds like a free set of language lessons. You're playing Dota, you're learning there, and you're also learning languages. It's great. You're getting a
Yeah,
taste of Southeast Asia. In
yeah.
Southeast Asia, they insult you in Indonesian, Malaysian, Chinese, everything, Filipino.
The problem is that every international player I've ever played with, because I play with Filipinos, I've played with Peruvians and Russians now, and they only teach me swear words. Like literally, they only teach me insults. That's
Yeah.
all I know. So people are
Yeah.
like, "Oh, like Espanol," and then I only know a curse word. So like, I just say some curse word in a pub, and everyone laughs, and I'm like, "Yeah, that's all I know." So sorry.
That's beautiful. All right. So back to Dota here, just for a bit. Win and Rain, you guys have like 2 series left. Of course, your series are with Fireman Midas and Felt. How are you personally feeling about your chances against those two teams?
Feels good but strange because we're gonna have to play one of the series with Porco. Like the rules don't allow us to play. We can only play one more series with the stand-in. So I'm pretty sure the plan is to play the Five-Man Midas one with Madara, and then the Borko one, the Felt one with Borko. I think we feel good. I mean, Five-Man Midas is a team that is interesting because like we played them. Like I had a lot of experience versus them because of last season, but they've changed a bit, so we'll see how that goes. But we're just gonna play our own style, see what happens.
Fair enough. Thank you.
With that, Saba, I'll ask you before we let you go. Do you have anything to say to the fans of Wind and Rain and yourself? I mean, we do see in the Twitch chat people are fans and they like to come in and support you guys. Do you have anything to say to them before we do let you go?
Are people fans of me? I
Yes.
feel like I created a bit of a villain image for myself
Oh
with what previously happened.
no,
So
NA loves a villain. Don't you worry. They love someone
yeah,
has to be the bad guy.
right. I embrace the role. I think it's fun. You know,
Yeah.
all the
I.
Twitch viewers can go fuck off. You know.
There you go. There you go. All right.
Fair enough. Well,
And
there's the shout out to the fans, I guess.
yep, that's the shout out. Thank you. Thank you.
By the way, Sabo,
Thank you.
before you do go, thank you for complimenting me in the lobby. By the way, I apologize. I was AFK. I promise I wasn't ignoring you, but thank you for the
Yeah, man,
compliment.
I'm never compliment. Your shirts are trash. Never again do I compliment.
My goodness.
All right, well, with that, Sabo, thank you very much for joining us, and I wish you the best of luck in your next series, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you,
guys.
Sabo. See ya.
Bye.
That was the lovely Sabo. Good to see he is embracing that evil role, and that's what the scenes need. That they need the bad guy, right? You can't have the good guy, you can't have the hero without the bad guy, and I appreciate the bad guy more than the good guy the most of the time because it's harder to be the bad guy, John. It's much harder.
Yeah. It really is. Hopefully they do well there. Win Rain again looking good, bouncing back up. You heard how their comps are like. Win and Rain, an NA team with an international set of players. You know what they're just emulating Southeast Asia. That's how every C pub is. You've got one guy with broken English. You've got one guy translating for the other fella. You've got one dude just constantly yelling at you in another language, and one guy who's just silent. So I like hearing that insight on how Win and Rain is playing. Hopefully it lines up for them. Maybe they can climb out of that lower bit in standing for relegation. But we'll have to see. As again, there are still challenges left for them. But it's good to hear that they're in good spirits. You know, Sabo's just sounding like he's having a good time enough,
Yeah.
and that's all that really matters. As long as your team's feeling good about themselves, you take it 1 series at a time.
Yeah, I think he was being a little bit harsh on himself as well, just, calling himself trash, but he's literally telling us they can't even understand what they're telling each other. They're all speaking different languages. To be able to move like that and coordinate so well when you can't even understand what you're saying to each other is very impressive, and I think underestimated. But now obviously we know that's the case, and again, it's very impressive, at least in my eyes. With that, John, that is going to be it for today. Of course, there's no more NA Dota on for today. I believe we are back tomorrow for some more lower division, and there might be some upper division as well. But to all the viewers, unlike Sabo, I love you very much, and I'd like to thank you all for tuning in and putting up with John and possibly me as well. And with that, thank you very much. It's been a lovely day, and we'll see you guys next time.